trillion pounds, 2 trillion pounds and 19 million people. That is the size of the opportunity. 19 million people and 2 trillion pounds. That's our really conservative estimate at NextWealth of the size of the opportunity. We're currently reaching about 14% of those 19 million people, and those are just people with £100,000 of investable assets. It's a really conservative estimate. The opportunity is enormous for all of us in this room, for our businesses, for our industry, but also for our customers, for better financial outcomes, better financial well-being. And that's why we're here today. I'm Heather Hopkins, founder and managing director of NextWealth, and I'm so happy to welcome you all here today. You all know I love this event. I absolutely love it. I love the venue, and I can't wait to get into it and get off the stage so we can get some of our fantastic speakers out here. Last year, Mark Duckworth on this stage laid down the gauntlet for this event. He said, the measure of success should be, are we able to move the delta? Are we able to move beyond that 14% of people to deliver advice to more people? It's not gone great over the last year, unfortunately. So if that's the measure of success at this event, we're not really measuring up. There are fewer financial advisors. FCA data from 2023, the latest data that's available, show there are 286 fewer financial advisors. I mean, you could say that's sort of flat, stagnant, slightly dropping. Research we did with Hub and Vanguard last year found that 3/4 of financial advisors are offboarding more clients than usual, and over half expect that to accelerate this year. So flatline number of advisors supporting a shrinking number of clients. How do we get beyond that 14%? The theme of the event today is reimagine. We need to reimagine what it is that we're doing. We can't keep doing the same thing, expect a different result. We need to think about new ways of working. We need to reimagine the products and services that we're offering to people. It's not just about technology. It's about finding different ways of doing things. And I want to share 3 examples to help us understand what that really means. What does it mean to bring people on a journey with us? What does it mean to find new ways of working? Now, some of you might be familiar with the story of Dr. Semmelweis. He's known as Dr. Handwashing. There was a play about him just around the corner at the Harold Pinter Theatre a few months ago. It's fantastic. If you don't know the story, definitely read up on it. Semmelweis was a doctor in a hospital in Vienna in the mid-1900s, and there were 2 clinics, maternity wards, in this hospital. One was staffed by doctors and the other by midwives. And there was something strange going on because women were arriving at the clinic begging to go into Clinic 2, the clinic where they would be helped by midwives. They were in fits, screaming, terrified if they were taken and admitted to Clinic 1. And Semmelweis wondered if the stories were true, that the patient outcomes, that the likelihood that women would die, their children would die, was much greater if they were admitted to Clinic 1, where they were supported by doctors. So he collected the data, and he found that in fact it was absolutely true. Maternal mortality rates were more than double for women treated in Clinic 1 compared with Clinic 2. So they tried a number of experiments, and here's some of the data that he collected. So first they changed the wards. They thought, well, maybe it's something in the water, in the air, in the light. Somebody suggested it was because of the windows and the light that was coming into the ward. So he swapped the wards, and you can see a dip. That was when they swapped the wards. Because when they swapped the wards, the poor outcomes followed the doctors. He had a theory that it had something to do with what the doctors were doing in the morning. They were performing autopsies in the morning. And those autopsies were incredibly important to understand causes of death, to understand the inner workings of the human body. The doctors were going from the autopsy room right into the maternity ward. And he theorized that they were somehow that death was contagious. He called them corpse granules. And so he experimented with a few things, and something that removed the smell, removed any evidence of the autopsies, was to douse hands in essentially chlorine. And so he got the doctors to run an experiment, see if they doused their hands in this chlorine that got rid of the smell and any evidence of the autopsies, the cadavers, whether that made a difference. It had an immediate difference. But Semmelweis, he was quite a difficult person by all accounts. He was unable to take his colleagues, the hospital administrators, on the journey with him. He found the solution. He knew what could solve the problem, but he couldn't bring his colleagues on the journey with him. He was dismissed and mortality rates returned. And this is a story that shows you need to bring people on the journey with you. It wasn't until about 20 years later, when Louis Pasteur figured out what those corpse granules were, that hospital in Vienna enforced hand washing on those doctors. The next example is from the 1940s, and this is a British Army officer who was trying to figure out how to improve firing times for his troops, and he had this time motion expert. And I love the idea that there's a time motion expert. I would love to be a time motion expert. But he went and he observed the exercises of the troops of this army officer. He observed still images of the troops. And something struck him as really strange. A few seconds before firing the cannon, two of the soldiers would stop what they were doing, stand back behind the cannon, salute until after the cannon had been fired, and then they would resume what they were doing. And he was trying to figure out what are they doing? So he asked this retired colonel to come and look at the still images with him. They looked at them for a while, and then the colonel said, aha, they're holding the horses. It's the 1940s. They're holding the horses. I mean, really let that sink in. They hadn't used horses to move cannons since the Boer War. But they were unable to divest themselves of what was no longer necessary. They couldn't change the way they worked. The third story is one that's a bit closer to home, ATMs. Now, we all know, we all use ATMs. In fact, we probably use them less frequently than we did, even a decade ago. But ATMs changed, or cash machines changed, so I say ATM, in Canada we say ATM, but they changed the way that we interact with banks. They changed the services that banks offer. It's a consumer behavior change, business change, but ATMs didn't arrive like this. Let's watch a short video about where ATMs came from.
London. An Oxford Street bank is catering for spenders with computer-age techniques. At a new branch, customers can use a closed-circuit auto bank kiosk for small transactions. By means of a two-way TV and sound link, the business of withdrawing money is faster and safer. While the customer makes out his check, the cashier, who is located on another floor level, gets the money ready. The completed check is put into a pneumatic tube carrier and whisked up to where the money is for scrutiny. As a security precaution, the cashier's TV set is kept on at all times. The security angle of TV banking appeals to staff, cutting out the opportunity for a hold-up. The customer also gets what he wants, efficiently.
I don't know if you noticed, he took out £4. Chira, you might be delighted to know, I believe that's a Lloyds Bank innovation, which is fantastic, the television banking. When that cash machine or television bank was introduced, that was in 1969, just around the corner from here. And the machines weren't available to dispense cash at that time. They weren't available until the mid-70s, and then they were quite rudimentary. It wasn't until the mid-80s that the ATMs as we know them today were really available. And it's just an example of you need to know where you're going. You want to improve security of your staff. You want to give customers what they want, access to what they need at the time that they need it. But sometimes you won't have a clear map of where you're going. And I think that's important for us to remember today, that we don't need a perfect map of where we're trying to go and how we're going to get there. We just need an idea of where we're heading. So when we think about reimagining wealth management, think about having an idea of where we're trying to go to reach towards that £2 trillion opportunity and that 19 million people. And who better to have on a journey than some fantastic guides? And wow, do we have some really good guides for you today. We have an amazing speaker lineup. Peter Mann is back again to chair our CEO panel, one of our top-rated sessions every year, thinking about future business models. What are the models that will thrive in future in our industry? We then will take some time to really understand who is the customer, what do they want, what are they looking for, because without being rooted in what the customer wants, who they are, we can't think about how we innovate, adapt to thrive in future. After the coffee break, we'll come back for 3 case study examples of advice firms innovating the way that they're working, the way that they're supporting customers, their business models. And then we'll have our Oxford-style debate. The stakes are always very high for that one. If you win, you win. If you lose, you walk out with a dinosaur tail. And the topic this year is on the future of retirement advice, retirement income, income drawdown or guaranteed income. Critical for many of those 19 million people we're trying to help. After lunch, we'll come back to broaden our horizons to think about wealth tech trends outside of the UK, looking to the US and EMEA for some examples of business models and tech that's thriving outside of our market, and then come back to the UK for 3 case study examples of tech that's about to be implemented or in action today to help firms innovate and thrive. After our afternoon coffee break, we have one of our top-rated panels hosted by Richard Romer-Lee, back for the 5th time. He's been at every conference, and a fantastic panel on future flows, thinking about the product of the future and where flows will go. A few people last year dubbed Paddy Earnshaw Mr. B&Q. He's back again this year to inject us full of enthusiasm and energy before we go off for a drink at the end of the day. Also, to guide us on this journey are some fantastic sponsors. So I hope you will stop by their stands at the end of the day, because if they're not happy, your ticket prices will go up next year, I assure you. Bravura has sponsored the event since the first time we ran it. Thank you. Back again this year. EV, Money Hub, and SS&C back again this year. Thank you so much. Pure Facts and Destination Retirement, that's part of Just, with us for the first time. Huge welcome to you. And Urban Synergy is back for the 3rd time, I think, this year as our charity partner. There are some mentees. Sorry, I didn't warn you I was going to do this. Urban Synergy mentees. Can you put up your hands, please? Higher, higher. Find these people. Ask them their views on our industry, because we're never going to reach beyond that 14% unless we attract the best and brightest talent to our industry, and that's exactly what Urban Synergy helps to do. And you might be able to help individually or in your company, so definitely stop by all of our sponsors and charity partner booths at the breaks. And last but certainly not least, thank you to all of you for being here today. It's incredibly important to take a day out to think a bit more broadly outside of your day-to-day role about the future of the industry. So thank you for taking the time with us to be here today. And I just challenge you to think about those examples of those stories, bringing people on the journey. To adapt, innovate, and thrive, we need to bring our colleagues, our customers, everyone in the room along with us on that journey to be successful. It's not just about technology, it's about finding new ways of working. So thank you very much for joining us today. I can't wait, as I said earlier, to get started.